introduction about Butterflywise and communication and how we see this in school. So, my name is Briony and I like playing. That's where it all started. I'm managing director of the Butterflywise School in Antwerp. It's a primary school which I started last year with a few people. And it's actually I'm economics stuff from education, and I teach economics and law and other things. But I always was busy with creating things for children. So I created workshops about, in the beginning it was fairies and nature elements, earth, water, air and fire. And after a while I created music for that, a book, CD, and I also started to create a theater and events. And on one of the events was a fairy festival. There were lots of people who were doing things for children, giving nice workshops for children. They really had a vision, yeah, we should do something for education, we should do something for the schools, because we really needed change in the schools. And on that moment we decided to give it a name, and the name was Child-Wise Education, to stimulate the wisdom of the children. And I organized also some conferences, and on one of these conferences there was Noemi. She comes a bit later. Noemi inspired so many people on this conference, and all the people on this conference, they all started with ideas of starting a new school. And I was not planning to start a new school. I said no, it's far too much work. But anyway, after 2 months, I heard so many voices that said we will start a school, we'll start a school. So I said, maybe I should start a school. And then I like to do things quickly, so I wanted to start a school in 3 months. And I tried to arrange this, but I had some discussions with the government and this was not possible. So I waited another year and I worked another year on the plan for starting a new school. And then after this year, last year in September, we started with 2 schools. We did not aim to start with 2 schools, but it was just the way how it was happening, but I would recommend nobody to start with 2 schools in the same time. It's like having 2 babies on 2 different places in 2 different houses. And you're just running from one baby to the other baby to arrange lots of things. And yeah, that's just not a good idea. But anyway, we did it, and after this 1 year we decided we really have to make a fusion and make it one school, so we can have a good fundament. And then this year, it's the 2nd year now, we also started with the training center to give Butterflywise training. So this is a little bit about me. And what is Butterflywise Education? It describes and facilitates the natural transformation process of a human, because the butterfly has 4 stages: the egg, the caterpillar, the pupa, and the butterfly. And we can see this in evolution of humankind, that we have these same stages. Also, when you look to the development of talents of children, you see also the same stages. You see the stages where you don't see a lot of output, but there's working something inside, and then you have the stage where the talent becomes visible, and you have this butterfly which is present. And how we integrate this in our school, this is a rainbow talent evaluation report. And you see that you have lots of talents, and then you have these 4 stages. And a talent is or developed or not developed, but you don't have minus. Or it is developed or not. You also have the 3 evaluation persons who are, this is the teacher, the child, and the parents. And they have about the same value. So what the child thinks, what the parents think is also very important in our evaluation system. These are the rainbow talents, but I will talk later further about this. So how you look at children, children really have these new keys, new talents to push humanity into a new evolutionary step. Because in species like this, that the little ones carry the new keys in them to let change society and let change the habits. And I want to ask you 7 questions. You can have a little paper. You have some paper from me, and you can write down this 7, just the answers. The questions you have there, but you can write down the answers. The first one is, what do you want for your children? It can be very, brief if you have. The second one is, do you notice when there is something wrong with your children? The third is, it's really nice if you write it down, because then you will make a transformation with these answers. We need these answers. And it's a nice game. Let's live. So the third is, how do you notice? And the fourth is, how does it feel for you when your child is not feeling well? To what extent are you willing to change this situation? Does your child always know what is good or needed? And do you sometimes have to take unpopular measures?
Of course. Impatient
and these are 7 questions from the method Present Child. It's a beautiful method created in Holland, and you have also a book, Present Child, Fluisterkind, and it's very interesting to read. The whole other view on children. So everybody has his answers. Now we'll ask the next 7 questions, and you just use the same answers as you have written down. So the first question is, what does your child want for you? And you just read your first answer. And the second one is, does your child notice when there's something wrong with you? You can read your second answer. How does your child notice there's something wrong with you? You can read your third answer. The fourth is, how does it feel for your child when you are not well? You're not feeling well. And to what extent is your child willing to change this situation? Do you always know what is good for you or needed? Does your child sometimes have to take unpopular measures? So, yes, they have a voice. Now, you can do this also at home. You have the questions and you can redo this. And this is, this is omdenken. It's also nice. It's how Present Child. Present Child is a book. It's a method also. Present Child. So you see here, Present Child. PresentChild.com. You can find the information, and you have and it touches Fluisterkind. Now, if we want to know what our children are telling us, it's important to learn, to investigate what are their characteristics nowadays. What do we see in them? And we have quite some learning disorders, behavior problems. We have quite some labels for children, and more children have these labels or get these labels. And so it's interesting to see what are in these labels and how can we translate it to what we see in society. So we have ADHD, attention deficiency hyperactive disorder, and children then are quite inattentive, hyperactive and impulsive and cannot focus very good. And what they need a lot of structure, they need movement, they need less distraction in their environments. And then you have 20 seconds with your partner just to discuss what are the possibilities that they reflect a little bit of our society, of what is going on in our society, and what could be a solution also for our society. So the present child it also has a translation. You can, and I just love their way of translating this to society. So how you can translate these characteristics to a society, it's a possibility. It's that we as adults are too busy inside and outside. We cannot focus on what is really important in life, the essence of human being, and sometimes we're quite aggressive against ourselves. And how the solution for society could be, we need more movement in our lives, more physical movement also. We need to reconsider what is really important in life, we need to create also inner rest, and to remember our deepest dreams, and we need to structurize our action plan to realize this dream. So it's a way of a possibility of looking at what the children telling to us. And then you have this other problem, dyslexia, or development reading disorder, and it's problems with reading and writing. And what they give a possibility, what you can, the needs is that the children with dyslexia want living content, want more images, experiences that they really can integrate this information. They have difficulties with really abstract information. No, because so what do we need as a society, as adults? Often we cannot read the story of our life, good or create it. We are often too focused on details, and we need to rediscover the bigger story of our life, the deep wisdom. We need to make our information more alive, colorful, linked with the senses, sound, movement, view, images. So. And then you have this PDD-NOS, progressive development disorder. It's also a behavior problem. And what we see is that children sometimes are quite robotic, that they have deficits in non-verbal and verbal communication, poorly developed speech and language comprehension skills. And what they need is that you really make contact with their essence, really, that you really make contact on all levels. And lots of children now come to this world and they shut down, and they do not want to connect anymore, because I think, how did you structurize your society? It's so weird, I cannot find my place in it. So we should restructurize our society, that the children who are coming now, that they really can find their place in it, and that they're being seen in their essence. For society, they also have a nice translation. We always repeat our own beliefs without really investigating them. So Sometimes we live like robots, we have difficulties to dive into fantasy, imaginative thinking, and therefore it's also very important to rethink how we children invite in our worlds. When you're a little baby, what are the thoughts that we have, what are the feelings, what is the environment, do we give vaccinations, do we give skin contact to children, how can they feel welcome in our worlds, and what do they need? And we should communicate with children on all levels. Then in the intellectual giftedness is also a label we often see, and we see then children who have high IQ, but weak social skills, often motoric skills, and so I think there's something in it in multiple intelligences to look at different intelligences. And high sensitive is also a label we see often coming, but the fact is, are the children high sensitive, or we become a little bit lowly sensitive? Her part on our evaluation report is able to fail, and is happy about it. So we work in our school with a Rainbow Talents Plan, and it's you have these papers. You've got some papers normally, and they are in Dutch. But we only have them also in Spanish. If you want Spanish, you can give them. But anyway, they are also in your papers. This overview, and if we can see 7 levels of communication. If we want to really communicate with children, with their essence, you have. If you go, we first start always with the red talent. It's form and movement, and then you have the non-verbal communication, body language, which is important if you communicate with children. It's not only the words, of course not. You have to be able to see so many different levels. If you look at the second level, the orange, so I go from below to orange, it's water talent, it's in all communication you often feel that there are emotions in it. And there are needs which are not often spoken through. So you should be able to feel in these parts. So what are the emotions, what are the needs of the children? And for myself, of course. Quite in some communication you have the need to know that you exist. Quite some communication is about, hey, did you see me? I'm here, I live here, and this is the courage talent also, the yellow talent. We have also the green, the heart, and it's about the neutrality. In what way can you feel this neutrality in the communication? That there's no violent communication, that there's, and in what way can the children reflect that what happens outside them has also something to do with inside them. And we call this mirror language. A very easy understanding process image is you have the water talent, and it's the feelings talent, and you have the courage talent. It's the yellow, it's the sun. And you have, for example, a child who really has a lot of courage, and then you have a child who really is very sensible, and they meet each other. What happens? Sometimes they fall in love, but not always. Sometimes they're really angry at each other, because you see there's a shadow, and the person with a lot of well-developed feeling talent has often a shadow of courage talent, which is not really developed in their expression in life. So the person who has who is very sensible and empathic can learn something about this courage person, that it can express themselves more and push themselves more in front. the other person, the person with a lot of courage, can be quite frustrated by somebody who is a bit wussy, like also and very sensible. But he can learn, or he or she can learn to work with their emotions and feelings. So it's a way that we learn children to work with mirror talents, so that everything what they see or everything they feel inside, or I love this person, or I really hate this person, has something to do with them inside. And therefore you can use the images of mirror talents. You have also the blue talent island. It's verbal communication. Sounds. This we know very good. We have the think and dream talent. It's thoughts. Because when you talk in communication, you have also the thoughts. You have also intuition inside, so we're going through it. And the subconscious levels were also present. And if you communicate with children, you should be aware of these several levels. And then the violet, the world is compassionate and connecting communication. Instead of the feeling of separation, you quickly feel when somebody is talking if this person feels totally alone in the world, or feels really connected with everybody and nature. How do we see, if this is well developed, how do you see this in the self-expression of children? On the red one, we see that they have good physical health and they can work with crafts. They have, and the second one is that there's lots of joy. They can connect with their feelings. And they're quite flexible. If you feel like, a child is very rigid, or an adult is very rigid, then you have to work on the orange talent. The yellow one is then creative entrepreneurship, action. Person who know good how to manifest themselves are often quite good in action, entrepreneurship. The green is about breathing, bringing breathing into the expression. Blue is about creative expression, singing, speaking, theater. The think and dream talent islands are about, think is about cognitive talents and dream is about imaginative thinking. So this is more the subconscious part. And the last one is connected. So you have this little paper you got from me, this talent island paper. If you work with children on these 7 levels, how can you see this in the results with children? And you can write it down on your paper. You just get 1 minute to write down on your paper what can you see on children if you develop these 7 if you talk with them in this, you integrate these 7 levels of communication with him, and you develop this talent as well. How can you see this at children? What are the results that you see then? I can move back if you need.
And then I heard you call, give me a voice, give me the space.